Okay, so we can just wait for like few minutes to gather up the audience. Okay. Okay. So I think we can start the session. We have gathered a few audience. So let's just dive right in. Yeah. Hey,
Good
hey
morning,
everyone.
everybody.
Welcome back to Sunday with Sketch Brains. Today's guest is someone who is bringing valuable experience and perspective on how a successful career is in a corporate world is built. So, joining with us today is Nandoo Neerukonda, who will be sharing insights from professional journey and what it is really looks like navigating growth and succeeding in a corporate career. For understanding workspace expectations and building a right skills to networking, career growth, and leadership skills in a corporate world. And he'll be helping us to build a smarter career. In today's episode, we'll be talking about the guide to build a corporate career, including how to get started, stand out in a competitive workspace. Nandu, it's a pleasure to have you with us today. And so, without any further delay, let's just dive right in.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you all can hear me well. I am happy to be here, share this 1 hour with you. Um, what I'm going to talk about is basically the topic at hand, corporate career, how to build, um, the the things that you look for, the things that you should aim for, just the trajectory. But I'll also start from sharing my own journey with you guys, and I'll give you a little bit of background. And towards the end, we'll open it up for questions and answers. Feel free to ask me any questions, um, and make it more interactive. So I would like to treat this as more of an interaction, conversation, than attending another lecture. So with that, again, thank you for having me. My name is Nandoo Neerukonda. Originally from Andhra, I went to Bapatal Engineering College, probably before you guys were born. Uh, Graduated in '96 in electronics and communications. Uh, um, and in '99, I went to the US. Since then, I've been living in the US for almost 30 years now. Um, my first job was actually here in Hyderabad. It was brief in multimedia. And then I attended IBM which is kind of like mainframes, but it used to be called AS400. I did the IBM Global School training for 3 months, then went to the US because there were opportunities at the time. My career has been majority of the time on the same platform. Um, with the industry focus changing every maybe 5 to 10 years. So I was in mortgage financing or banking, was also in logistics and transportation. Then I also worked for CVS Health, which is um, healthcare. Then went back to fintech. All of this in the US. And recently, earlier this year, I founded my own startup, TRIPTI.ai, that focuses on group trip planning among friends and families, um, focusing on coordination and planning the trip itself, and not so much on itinerary and other things that come with the trip. The journey has always been interesting for me. Um, and I think throughout the presentation or throughout this talk, what we should probably focus on is keeping yourself interested, right? Genuinely be curious in whatever you do. Um, so with that, we'll go through the presentation. Please type in any questions, note it down. I think the moderators will help us get to the questions because I may not be able to see it as I'm doing the presentation. So with that, one thing I really want you to think about is where you start does not decide how far you go. So it could be about which college you're attending. It could be about what's the first company you work for, or which industry it is, how much is the pay. Um, None of that determines how far you can go. It's the ceiling, right? And none of these actually play any role. Um, so that so I don't want you to think about the FANG companies, right? The start or maybe a startup or a service industry company, services company like TCS, Infosys. No matter which one, right? You could always have the start. Um, it's just your launch pad. How far, how high you go, um, it's not determined by that first job. So don't be stuck on that part. Whatever you do in that first job, how you do it, and what you do the next few years, that's what's going to lay the path for you going forward. So just quickly, where I came from, where I come from is, as we talked about briefly, there were multiple switches in the industries that I worked in. Again, my engineering itself was in electronics and communications. And since the first job, I never actually had to put that to use. Does that mean it was a waste that I went to 4-year college? No, not really, because college is more than what the subjects you do, right? It is about the mental aptitude. It is about the framework, how you think. It is about the network, your own classmates, your seniors, your professors. This whole ecosystem is what gives you that boost, right? Yes, of course, if you depends on what subject you took and whether your work actually has bearing on it, could play a factor, but it doesn't determine everything. So I did electronics and communications engineering, and then I went into animation, multimedia programming, and then I went to uh, IBM I, which used to be called as AS400, which is enterprise system. To this day, probably 80% of the financial industry in the US, the core systems still run on that platform. What users or clients or general public sees is probably the apps, probably the website, the stack, but the core of it is actually running somewhere in a data center or in the cloud that makes all this function. So and then I went to the consumer app. So the app that I founded, TRIPTI.ai, is directly to the consumer. So I'm out of the enterprise systems, and I'm fully hands-on with the AI and the consumer apps, including app stores and the web front end. So I'm sure you could probably relate to something along my journey. Um, So the point is there are no shortcuts, and um, there is no need for unnecessary prominence about what about your starting package or which company. All of those will just align with time. What you have to have is the curiosity and willingness to keep going, keep learning every day. Uh, So one of my first jobs back in Torrance, California, Simi Valley, California, was as a software engineer. Then I worked my way up into database administration, performance engineering, then became a technical architect uh, for what is now Bank of America, used to be Countrywide. Um, and then I went to uh, independent consulting role, doing my own projects, consulting with different companies. And majority of that time it was Penske truck leasing, also in the US, Pennsylvania. Then went to CVS Health as a senior manager, managing database administration, performance engineering, and architecture. Eventually moved on to another company called Mr. Cooper, which became Rocket now recently. Um, and there was an IT division that got sold to Sagent, which is where I was working. And there I was managing, again, on the application side. We had both onshore and offshore. I was a senior director when I left. Uh, in January, I founded my TRIPTI.ai product or company out of Delaware, based out of Austin now. Um, that's just quickly my career overview. Uh, the the one thing I want to start with is thinking back over 25 years ago for me and for you, very near future, right? As you step out of the college into your first job, first project, for whether it's a startup that you create or you work in IT services or develop a product, whatever is that first job, treat that as your the learning experience that you've had in the college as an extension. The only difference is to attend the college you were paying. Now you're learning in your job and they're paying you to learn. That's that's all it is. So don't stop learning, but focus this first job on not just what the company is or what the salary is or um, somebody else got a better job or a better offer or uh, better location. None of that actually matters in the long run. Maybe it feels good in the beginning, but focusing on what are the real problems you're going to solve. right? On the job, maybe they'll hand you uh, as a first job. There may be a mentor, there may be tickets assigned to you specifically asking for something. As you're doing that, as you're delivering that, focus on learning from people, right? You don't have to show that you know everything. Nobody does. Even after 25 years, I'm humble enough to tell you that to this day, I learn every day. Um, as a matter of fact, real life example, my son is probably your age. He's in the final year. He's doing his computer science in University of Texas, Austin. He showed me the ropes on using or building the app with AI, using the terminals, using the uh, Lighthouse Tencent cloud instance. None of this I had to ever use in my 25 years of career. But I learned, I learned from my own son uh, about the technology that I'm not familiar with. And within a matter of months, I was able to pick it up. Now I run it completely on my own. So the point here is whether it is your own peer, your own classmate, your friend, or a senior, um, or a manager, everybody has something to teach. Everybody offers something to you. So you absorb that. Don't just focus on the task at hand, but understand why that task, right? The meaning behind the task. What is the real problem? Um, are you building the skills, right? I'm not talking about Python, ML, or Java. That's just part of it, right? Nowadays with AI, you probably don't even need to spend as much time actually coding, right? But the thinking patterns, how to get things done, how to actually prompt the AI to do that job that you would have done maybe 5 years ago, right? Those are the skills that you need to learn, right? What does the product feel like for the end user? How are the flows? What is their experience? So think holistically all around outside of just the task at hand. So that's what you should be focusing on your first job. And remember, you're getting paid for learning. So let's talk about some of the actual specifics, right? Like what kind of skills? Like we just talked about, what you learn in college. By the time you leave, at the rate at which things are changing right now, they will turn over. As I gave you an example, in my own career, things were changing. Right, some of my friends went to Java, some others went to .NET, C# stack, others went to Linux, and different ecosystems. Things always change. Right now, we have AI. Right, that's the biggest thing everybody talks about, and it is uh, uh, a tectonic shift in how the industry is going to function. So uh, continue to be curious, right? Uh, it, you don't need to learn a specific language, like maybe you think about Golang, right, or Rust, and you want to learn everything about it and use it. But the one thing that you need to remember is you do have to be good at, really good at one thing, but expand, diversify, not necessarily learning everything, all the other languages, but awareness, right? So you know what to use for which situation, right? The context around the stack. So again, the skills are also soft skills, like interacting with others, networking, um, being able to get help from mentors or have one-on-one with your manager in your job, right? Ask for feedback, communicating. Like you may be working with people not just in your office physically, but they could be in Philippines, Mexico, or US, or Europe, anywhere, right? Uh, there is the different cultures that'll uh, play. So being able to communicate uh, doesn't mean speaking English, right? We all can speak English. But when I say communicate, means it has to be understood by the other person, the idea, what you're trying to say, and not just literally the words that are coming out of your mouth, right? You're able to convey the idea effectively. Those are the communication skills that you need to build. Um, so again, the important thing is, yes, for the skill, the depth you have on a particular area will get you the job, right? The breadth of your understanding, your exposure, your knowledge actually makes you promotable. So a really good software engineer can become senior software engineer, a lead, or a technical architect. But he has the depth. Um, but if you really want to lead people, you need to expand that to be able to talk to somebody else that uses a different programming language than you do, right? Or talk to an end user, or be able to talk to a business user, the ones that are giving you the requirements to build something, right? All these communication skills, being able to interact with them, QAing your own stuff, uh, and not just saying, this works on my computer, I don't know what's wrong, right? Because you need to focus on the entire thing and not just the task. So that whole range gives uh, the feeling to others that you work with as, oh, this guy can own things. He's not just narrow in and focusing on one task. He actually understands what it is that I need, right? That gives confidence to your own manager on you. So that makes you promotable. So you can actually grow in the corporate world. To the moderators on the presentation, I'm not able to see any questions, so just going to keep going. Hopefully, there are some questions coming in.
Yeah, in the end of the session, we can have the questions.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So as we talked about, some of somebody who's actually really good at, let's say, I don't know, I'll take Java as an example, or even Python, right? They may be working as a software engineer, right? The work gets fed to them in the form of maybe ticket, Jira, or whatever, or agile systems in, whatever, GitHub issue. So if you are the software engineer that is looking at this ticket, you have a choice. Yes, you can say, I understand what the ticket is saying to deliver, right? Make the sign up button work, right? What it should do when you click on the sign up, right? That could be the ticket. Um, and a lot of people do that job very well. They understand the ticket, they deliver it, right? And they will have the reputation that, oh, he does really good coding, right? He delivers and it works well. And they may get a promotion to becoming a senior engineer or an expert, or, I don't know, specialist or whatnot. But that's it. How do you gain the breadth of it? That's what I was talking about earlier. Focus not just on the ticket, but the reason why it came. What is the output? How will the user feel? Is it confusing? Is there too much cognitive overload when he's looking at the screen where the sign up is? Putting yourself in the shoe of the user, as well as putting yourself in the shoes of the business owner that gave you that requirement, putting yourself in the shoes of QA, all of this makes you the owner of delivering that um, ticket truly end to end. So by doing that, you're focusing on the outcome and overall outcome, not just for that ticket, right? So that's the mindset. You have to always expand, reason with yourself, think bigger than the narrow ticket scope. That's when you not only you get a promotion to becoming the next level in the engineer, but you could actually become a leader that could manage other teams of software engineers. So that's the difference that would make. Another lesson. This is actually very important. One disclaimer I have is I don't have as much experience working in the corporate world in India. I'm sure the the mechanics are similar no matter where you go, but there may be local compliance, regulations, policies that could be different in India versus US, right? But other things are same no matter where you work. The things that are, for example, you could be a great engineer, right? Or you go deep and you do the perfect code that is easy to understand for somebody else. It's well documented within the code. Um, and that greatness of that code can only be perceived by another engineer just as good as you are, for example, right? Now think from the business owner that gave you the requirement or the end user that is using what you built. He doesn't know how perfect that code is. All he sees is the experience from using it or seeing it, right? So uh, the point I want to make here is do the great work, but uh, make it speak for itself or talk about it. Not only just document the code, but talk about, like, share with your team on why you went the extra step, right? Or how you did the QA yourself. Of course, there may be a dedicated QA team. That doesn't mean you don't have. It's not your responsibility, right? But you own end to end, and you talk about it. So it's not about either any politics or bragging or boasting about your work. It is about building awareness of how you work and what is it that you worked on, and the quality of it. So that helps build your image, your reputation. In a meeting, speak up, share that, right? I used to have just like how I'm giving this presentation, right? I also speak at conferences, technical conferences, both in the US and recently in India as well. And I also do peer knowledge sharing sessions internally at the companies I worked. So this is not just me sharing my own knowledge, but also I'm learning from them as well. So it it is a growth for yourself as well as enabling others, right? So keep that framework. Um, don't work in silence, right? Interact with others. Um, take the opportunities to speak up in a team meeting or a stand-up meeting or attend conferences, or perhaps you're really good at something, maybe you can present that topic to others, right? It's not about how many years of experience you have, what all you've accomplished in your career. No, you have something to offer. It could be right outside, right after you leave the college. It could be any time. Whenever you have something to offer, share. That helps you in the long run. Because again, that reputation is the only thing that you will carry. Nowadays with social media, LinkedIn, anybody can simply Google you, right? Your name. Um, the things that matter are these, like the trail you leave or the trail you blaze. Um, it, a lot of times when you're moving from one job to another, I don't know about India how it is right now, but in general, most of it actually happens through referrals, right? Old colleagues or old friends, referring you, right? That's why it's important to never burn the bridges, right? When you leave a company because you're upset or you didn't like something, you don't have to build you don't have to ruin what you built there, whether it was 6 months or a year. um, just leave on good terms, right? Everybody will understand why you're leaving, right? You don't have to uh, uh, sabotage, is the word I would say. So, be kind to others. Make sure you build your reputation as, oh, he's a very friendly guy, nice guy. He shares things, and he doesn't play politics. These things matter, right? Uh, and it makes you hireable or promotable easier in the next step. And that next step is always evolving, right? So I am still in touch with my classmates. We regularly meet, right? These are all my peers. They all work at different companies or they have their own businesses or whatnot. I am still in touch with all my old colleagues. Um, and this is um, the example I'm talking about. Like you're leaving the college pretty soon, maybe this year or next year, right? Try to stay in touch. Be curious about what your friends are doing, where they are, etc. Right? Those could open doors and windows to things that you're not aware of. So same thing applies when you're leaving from going from one job to another job. Um, so reputation is important. Good reputation. Well, uh, the only reputation that would matter. Let's talk briefly about on working with. I think we briefly touched on this, but nowadays I think it's global, right? The team, the company you're working at, no longer it's Hyderabad only. It could be Pune, it could be Bangalore. There could be teams in different countries, different continents, all across the world. So that's why always be respectful to their time, their culture, their or the roles, um, time zones, um, dif- uh, different mindsets, right? So don't assume just because somebody else sitting next to you can understand you well will translate 100% to you talking to somebody in Australia, right, as part of a project. So um, communicate well, speak up respectfully, right? Uh, in different countries, the work culture could be slightly different, right? For example, when somebody asks me to do something in the US, and if that is something that I've never heard of or don't know, I will say that I've not heard of this. I don't know how that works, but here is what I'm going to do. And then I'll explain what I'm going to do, right? I'll learn about it, I'll do some research, and then get back to you, right? It is perfectly acceptable. You don't have to project the image that, oh, they may think I don't know anything. No, everybody understands. What they want to know is, do you have the ability to learn? Are you creative? Are you willing to learn? Are you curious? Right? These are the soft skills that are important. Um, and be honest. Uh, you know, just when somebody says, "Oh, this is urgent," be honest, right? Whatever that is, it may take for you to research a day, maybe another day to code, maybe another day to you know fix any bugs or QA or whatnot. Explain that, right? Yeah, so that you're being honest. There's no, you're not saying, oh, it's urgent, so I'm going to get it done today by end of day. Don't, because that would be, likely be poor quality, right? It'll come back to haunt you. So upfront, be honest. Everybody will appreciate that, rather than them being impressed when you say, I'll get it done by end of day, and then realize, oh, this is problematic, and then I have to go back and forth, and then it ends up taking 2 3 days anyway. That shatters that image, right? So keep that in mind. uh, Especially in nowadays when you're working with different teams spread across the globe, communication is very important. Keeping them in the loop, keeping them up to date, right? Like for example, real life example is, let's say you're working here and your end of day is, I don't know, 9 p.m., right? Maybe somebody else that you're working with is not even in yet. um, don't just think that, oh, he'll know my day's done here, so I'll be back tomorrow. He'll know that, right? No, tell him that, because he may be waiting to hear from you. Hey, what progress did you make today? So I can pick it up from here, or do I need to focus and reprioritize something else and then check in with you tomorrow, right? So that communication is important. Now let's talk about how the climb actually works, the promotions and the switching of the careers or jobs. Um, one Somebody told me at some point in my career, right? The promotion in corporate world usually works like this. They're not promoting you so that you'll start taking you know uh, new tasks or new um, responsibilities, etc., right? That's obvious. They're promoting you because you're already operating at that level. Maybe the role hasn't been reflected in the role, your title, right? So what's an example? Let's say you want to get promoted to an architect, right? And right now you're a senior engineer. So what I mean by that example is, as a senior engineer, you play the role of an architect. You design the system, you understand the patterns which are proven, they perform well. As a senior engineer, you're already doing the job of an architect, and then ask for that promotion, right? You have a case, you're already operating. It's easy to justify. Whereas, oh, I would like to do this, I want to do this. So can you give me the promotion, or I would like to get promoted because I want to do that. That falls apart. That's not easy to sell to your manager. What's easy to sell to your manager is, hey, look, this is the proof, this is the evidence. I'm already doing this. I've been doing this. So it's about time my title also changes to reflect what I'm actually doing already on the ground, right? That's the mindset difference. So think of it like that. Whenever you think about promotions, you should already be operating at that level, and then ask for it. And also um, the scope. It's not about how early you show up to the office and how late you stay back. That doesn't matter. Uh, at least in the companies that I worked at, it never mattered. Yes, when there is a production issue, you're expected to be available, and you should be available because business is at stake, right? People are being affected. Um, so the more important thing is owning the problem as is, right? And then delivering the outcome to the business or to the end user. If it's a consumer app, to the end user. If it's a enterprise app, the business unit that's uh, getting the taking the delivery of that task you worked on. So that ownership is what you should be focused on and delivering, right? Not about how many hours you spent logged in. So um, and then the other most important thing is, throughout my career, I've had some good managers, some bad managers, I would say not so good managers, and some great managers. What I noticed was, one of my favorite managers ever that I worked for, um, she's probably 55-year-old American lady. um, the communication was great between her and I, right? She always knew what I was working on, what to expect, and how I own things and not just focus on the task, and how I keep the end user or the business owner or the whoever, right, the client in the loop. So she doesn't have to babysit me or spoon feed me. So that gives her a comfort. Okay, he's got it. So I don't have to worry about it, right? What that does is, when there is an instance where in a boardroom or a meeting room, when you're not there but your manager is there asking for your promotion, or maybe there was a mistake that happened, and now you're accountable, but hence by proxy she or he is accountable as your manager, they have to fight for you even though you're not there, and they will. When the manager, your boss, feels that about you, They will fight for you. They will advocate for you. They will give you the pay raise, incentives, bonus, promotion, or defend you, right? When something you push to production may have broken something, right? That's not usually you. It's not how he works or she works. Something must have happened, or they'll explain, right? They're defending your case where you're not present. So you're not being blamed by your own boss. That makes a huge difference. And that makes what a job is a stressful job versus a job that you like to show up every day when you wake up in the morning, right? You should be looking forward to going to work. So that's the mindset you should keep. Um, so we talked about how to make your manager your advocate, right? This is very important, right? Um, like especially when you start your first job, the first 3 months, I think, like probation period. Even if there is no formal probation, any new job, uh, like even after decades of experience, if I take up a new job, just because I know stuff, I have this much experience and all that, I'm not going to start implementing changes what I think is right, right? That would be uh, uh, not appropriate. I need to understand the lay of the land, how the teams work, how the work culture is, what are the dynamics, what is the technology, what is the process that they follow, because that could be different, right? So um, you need to listen, you need to watch and learn. Um, Maybe deliver something small first so you have end-to-end experience or exposure to how things work, and ask questions. Be curious, ask questions, because everybody knows you're new and they are already open to asking you, to answering your questions, right? It is when you don't ask anything and you assume and you're working silently that causes them uh, discomfort, right? Is he really that good, or is he being shy, or is she uh, um misunderstanding what I'm asking? So be open and ask questions, clarify, right? And they're expecting that from you, and you have that license because it is your new job. I hope that makes sense. And in most companies, generally there will be one-on-one with your manager. Um, Always, I mean, if they don't set up one-on-one, you can ask for it, right? Maybe once every couple of weeks or once a month. It's fair, and it is understood that it is important. The entire corporate world works like that, right? The pulse check by the manager with the team or the team members or the associate. So when you have that one-on-one, have it on the calendar, right? If you don't have anything to talk about, or the manager might think, "Oh, I don't have anything," but then good manager will always leave that meeting slot open just in case you bring up something, or just check in, like personally, how you're doing, how is the quality of life, etc. Or maybe there is a work issue that you want to bring up, right? So one on one, you go prepared. Don't be silent. Um, Ask how you can improve. What is it the manager is expecting from you, right? A lot of times maybe manager is not as great communicator, right? There are people like us, like you and I. They just happen to be in a different role, right? So it's okay to uh, ask them to, so that you can understand what their expectations are, right? And don't wait till performance review at the end of the year or mid-year. Usually there's, I don't know, different companies have different practices. Some do quarterly, some do mid-year, some do once a year, right? But don't wait for that time, right? Ask for feedback continuously. Um, make uh, make their job easier, so that they're invested in you, they're defending you, they're advocating for you, and they're enabling you to grow, right? And that only happens when you make their job easier, how do you make their job easier? By owning um, the assignment of the project, not just the task that's on the ticket, by communicating, by asking, by soliciting the feedback from them. All of this and keeping the customers or clients in loop, right? When the manager sees that, you're actually making their job easier and they will be on your side. So um, invest in that relationship. Well, this is when to switch or when to stay. Everybody will have different reasons, right? Every time I switched my job in the 25 plus years, I probably switched 4 times. Um, um, so every time the reason could be different, right? What are the good reasons? Um, Maybe it is stagnant in terms of learning, right? You're not curious anymore because it is routine, it's mechanical, it's boring, right? That could be a reason because you can't be like that. That would be putting your own career at risk when you're not learning anything anymore. Um, or another reason could be, okay, you're looking to become that next title, next role. Maybe that doesn't even exist where you are, right? But you're operating at that next level that doesn't exist at the current company. Maybe that's the time, right? Or a genuine step up from becoming an individual contributor to becoming a people leader, right? That's a huge step. It's a bigger scope and comes with a lot more responsibility and skills. So that is a good reason to move, whether within the same company or a different company. Or another reason is, you know, maybe it's rare, not as common, but sometimes there are poor ethics at play. There are genuinely toxic environments that you cannot vibe with, that that don't sit well with you, right? It's against your principles. Then that is the time, because it's affecting you, it's causing you stress, it is making you compromise your ethics and principles, and that's not healthy. So that could be a good reason to move. What's not a good reason? You need to think more, or think twice before you move, just because they're offering you another a lakh more, 5 lakhs more pay, right? That shouldn't be the only factor, because pay is only one aspect of a job. Um, it, I'll give you an example, right? Maybe from company A to company B, if you jumped to company B, your pay may go up by 5 lakhs, for example, right? Maybe that company is a dead end. Now you sabotaged your career by moving for that 5 lakhs, and you sacrificed what could be 25 lakhs if had you stayed at company A or went to company C that offered only 1 lakh more. Right? Those are the things you need to think about. Or another reason is you're running away from a problem that might exist at the new company. Like maybe um, you know some of the things that you see at the current in the current team, somebody may be harder to work with, right? um, or some other issue that's not going to change. What's the guarantee that at the new job you won't run into the same? It could potentially repeat, right? And you just put through and went through a lot of hassle trying to run away from something that you'll again run into or repeat. Maybe try to address that, maybe try to fix that, or figure out a way to work around that, right? Rather than just switching a job. Um,
So we have a couple of questions. It was
okay,
great listening to
yeah.
the insights.
Okay, let me quickly go through the next few slides, right? This we talked about. Stay
Okay.
in touch with your friends, mentors, your colleagues, ex-colleagues, whatever, right? Reputation is important. So the network is very important. So use that. I think quickly I'll probably share this deck. Maybe the moderators can get it to you. One thing I want to talk about is the AI and how it could impact the jobs and all. I'm sure Everybody is talking about it, including your professors or the colleagues or the people that work in the industry now. What I want you to remember is throughout my career, I have seen changes, right? Back when in the mid 90s or so, even Microsoft Windows or the Office is new, right? People were writing things on paper, ledgers, notebooks, right? File system actually was literally a file system in the cabinet. To they worried about how the computers will affect their jobs. Then industrial revolution did the same thing. It's the change is going to be the constant. You have to learn to adapt and work with. So yes, the same job may not exist. A different job will be created. Maybe 10 different jobs will come because of AI. So being able to uh, adapt is the key. So yours is the AI wave, right? For me, it was something else. So don't ignore it. Be good at using it, right? Then you'll understand how to apply. So focus on your careers. Think about not from one job to another job this year, next year, couple of years. Think in long term. So again, this is to conclude where you start doesn't decide how far you can go. That is not your ceiling. What you do is what matters. That's all I have. Back to you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your valuable insights. And we have the first question. So it is, you mentioned regarding having a depth of knowledge, right? So in the beginning of the career, is it better to be a generalist at one particular, like every particular domain, having a quarter of knowledge in every particular domain, or being an expert in one particular domain?
Um, I want to take that in different contexts, right? When you say domain, I'm not sure if you're talking about the technology tech stack or domain as in like product ownership versus software engineering versus infrastructure kind of domain, right? My advice in general would be to keep it broader rather than focusing narrowly on one aspect, because marketability, um, you're opening up your options, right? You do have to have the knowledge, deeper knowledge in something, right? What that is, I don't know, right? For me, it could be my platform. For you, it could be maybe uh, mobile app development, right? Full stack, right? Being good at it is important, but don't stop there. Think about performance, how to make it, where is this hosted infrastructure for that consumer app or enterprise app, all of that. The knowledge you have broadly will take you places. Good question.
Yeah, the second question is, what kind of roles, like in particular engineer roles, is better? Software engineering or product based engineering, like product based management? Which is better?
That's a great question. Had you asked me maybe 3 years ago or 4 years ago, I probably would have said different, software engineer. But now with the way AI is coming, right? This is a conversation, believe it or not, I've had with my own son, where he's currently interning at Stripe in San Francisco, a fintech company. Before last year, his internship was at AWS, Amazon in Seattle, which is pure uh, software engineer, right? So his question to me was, Daddy, do I come back to San Francisco and look at work in a software company, or should I focus on the industry, different domain, or do I go deeper in the stack, ML or whatnot, or do I venture into product? I recommended him to focus on the product, right? Because with the models evolving nowadays, software engineer is an agent at this point and probably can do a better job, but it cannot create something out of thin air. The product owner, the product life cycle is the one that's still governed by the human and will be for a longer time frame. So my answer would be the latter in product.
Okay. And the next question is actually a point in a software career where an individual feels like stagnant or he's not like growing at one point.
I think there will be. So again, it depends on the company you work for, the industry they're in. Like, so it is possible that I think one of the slides we talked about it, right? Maybe at a given company, who's a senior systems admin is the last step. There is nothing more after that. So his career had, if he stays focused on that part, will be stagnant. So you have to, that's why always try to think broadly, and be aware of what could lead to a stagnant role, and step away or learn or acquire new skills to be able to step away. That would be my advice.
Okay. Um, Actually, A can thrive in a corporate environment. What kind of technology like do you recommend to like actually be students should learn and grow?
Um, that's a hard question to answer. Uh, I think because the tech stack or the technology varies from company to company, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't have this many software companies or vendors or things like that, because it is broad. In general, um, the enterprise systems that I was exposed to, always like within the same company. Like for example, I was on IBM AS400, um, and there were other teams that were full stack. There were cloud native. There was ML. There are within the same company. All of the tech stacks will be available. So which one is good is depends on the career prospects for you and your personal interest, um, and and the growth trajectory that is coming, um, from where you are. So I wouldn't be too worried about what to learn specifically on the tech stack.
Okay.
Oh,
uh,
one thing I quickly want to add, definitely AI awareness, right? Not when I say AI aware, I'm not talking about talking to ChatGPT or prompting Gemini or Claude. Like being able to create agentic OS, right? You should have agents working for you. As a college student, you should already be relying on agents, um, to do things, to become more efficient, to become more productive, right? To be able to do your job easier. That gives you exposure to how, or be puts you in a position where you're valued, when you go to the company for a job. Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, it's completely fine. And if there is one piece of advice you would give to our viewers about performing exceptionally in their work, what, like soft skill, like hard skill, what would you advise them?
The one most important takeaway would be genuinely curious, learn every day, do not ever stop learning, and focus on end to end intent behind a task, understanding how it impacts, um, is as important as just the task itself. So always probe deeper, understand the 360 degrees around that task. Um, that is the most important takeaway.
And the last question,
Yeah.
the juniors, like the uh, beginner level folks, value enough to consider the senior level folks, like taking advice them, what would that be beneficial for them?
Can you say that one more time? Is it from the junior, uh, looking to the senior, and what is the?
Yeah, like what insights they would take from the senior level folks from them and implement in their software career.
what the things that I just shared, right? Because remember, I came from being a software hands-on programmer uh, to growing within the corporate. Um, so that whole experience is what I put kind of distilled into this presentation. The same thing when you're working with a senior engineer, uh, be open to criticism, not because they're just pointing finger at you, or don't look at it that way. It's about they're helping you get better, right? So be genuinely open to constructive feedback and criticism. And you know just like how in college, right? Look at your own college where your seniors show you the ropes because they've been there, done that. So a senior engineer, when you join as a junior engineer, will do the same thing. He'll show you the ropes. But keep yourself broad because you don't have to turn into him, right? You could be better than him in a matter of a year or months or a couple of years, but learn from them and grow.
Having one last question, sir. What is one bold perception regarding a future of jobs in a software sector that you would see happening in the near future?
I think with the way things are going, product product ownership, um, and the um various domains or industries, right? Different verticals. How AI could make those better is where the opportunities will be. Um, so, not a specific language, not a specific role, none of that. So, for example, think about, I don't know, a biryani chain in Hyderabad, right? They've been doing this for decades, right? AI is new. What could AI do for that business? Will they know? They won't. Will an engineer know that has no idea about how biryani chain works, right? The supply chain and whatnot. But somebody who can understand the AI and how to apply that to this chain is the guy that is most valuable, that would be most sought after. So that's where your focus should be.
And that's a wrap up for today's episode. A huge thank you to Nandu Neerukonda for joining with us and sharing his valuable insights on building a successful corporate career. If you enjoy this conversation, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Sketchbrains for more insights, discussions with professionals, innovators, and creators, and such as Nandu and Sandu. So also don't forget to follow Sketchbrains in LinkedIn and our other social media platforms to stay updated. So we will also leave Nandu's Instagram and as well as LinkedIn profile in the description, so you can just reach out to him at any time. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep building. Thank you. This is Shashank signing off. See you in the next episode. Thank you so much, sir, for joining with us.
Thank you.